Hello, today we're going to be taking a look at the DJI Mavic 3. First up, controller. Okay. Battery, which I know we're all here for. Or charging cables, it looks like, actually. So you got cables connect to the remote. Looks like charging cable here. Even has an extra charging brick, it looks like. Looks like a set of extra rotors. And then, of course, the main attraction. So it looks like you got this hard plastic front cover here, kind of protect it. And that's a nice locking mechanism. And then you can, of course, take this out. So then, if I remember correctly, these should fold out. These back ones should fold up like this. And that should be it. Full drone right there. So it looks like this is for the controller here. You charge this. You can charge both at once, which is very nice. Plug it in, get it charging. So to start off with a couple things that I guess are important to mention is I've been able to get battery life that exceeds what they've promised, which if you look online and any of the comparative reviews of people talking about stuff, they're pretty much always less. They get less. I found that I got like a good couple minutes after the battery was supposedly completely depleted, and I found that was very interesting as well. Very impressive on the hovering camera quality. The hovering is, great. Camera quality is quite exceptional. I don't have the Cine version, but definitely very nice camera quality, even with the H.2.4 and H.2.5 codecs. I have had a lot of issues recently, however, with the camera just like appearing to lag and then you lose video. It almost seems like, I thought at first the SD card might have been a little bit slow or something, but I'm not having, I've swapped out the SD card, and it appears that like when you're recording sometimes, when the drone's only maybe like 30 meters away, you'll lose complete video output and you'll be unable to stop or pause the recording. And just, luckily it hovers, and I'm not actually too far away. The testing I'm doing is not too far away, but that's kind of an issue, is that when, you lose video output, and you know you're only 30 meters away. I really have issues trusting this at such a you know what it's supposed to be advertised as, which is like 700 or 7,000 meters, and you're only 30 and you're losing video output. That's not something that can happen. It should happen when you're out that far. So something to consider. Hopefully it gets patched in some future updates, but I'm writing this at pretty much posting this at the 1st of January, and they've already had a couple months to work on this, I believe. So yeah, overall, I mean, I know a lot of people gave a lot of flack about the controller, and I mean, for the most part, I understand, but like, and yes, it's such a nice drone, they should include a nicer controller. I mean, for the most part, I just flying this kind of semi-recreationally. I don't have much to complain about the control. I would like to have, you know, video output to put on a bigger screen and have that ability, you know, having the programmable buttons, of course, but I don't have much complaints. I guess my biggest issue, of course, is just the fact that you lose video output if you're recording at very, very, very small distances. Should not happen. But yeah, overall, you know, since this isn't technically mine, I mean, would I buy it? It depends. I think it's already very pricey at the moment. The active track on this was surprisingly really good. The obstacle avoidance helped out a lot, and the active track did do a good job on the road I was testing it on. A couple of things though is I absolutely do not trust this to go through trees. I think a lot of the other people that have been reviewing drones like this have been saying that they really would like the return to home feature to include, you know, going to the correct altitude and then coming back down at the correct altitude, or coming back down to the same spot rather than flying through trees, especially because like in the winter, especially here, there's a lot of twigs, a lot of trees, and the trees are bare, and that's really hard. You can tell that this drone doesn't actually pick up some of these thin twigs. I think the return to home feature, I personally still don't trust it, especially in the like places I'm flying it, you know, underneath the trees and stuff. I really don't think that you know, I really just don't trust it. I really do think that the obstacle avoidance can be used in return to home, in the sense of, you know, if you're below the trees and navigating to, you know, navigating upwards. But I do not think that it should be used instead of or primarily for, you know, return to home. Return to home, you want to get the drone back safely. And I think that while I think the obstacle avoidance is probably the best that you can get on a drone, it simply does not, there's no reason to put, you know, unnecessary risk to fly your drone through trees when you could easily just have it fly through, you know, the sky where it's pretty much clear. Now, obviously, keep the obstacle avoidance on when you're in the sky, because, you know, you might run into, I don't know, trees or something. Obviously, if you said it's pretty high distance, return home distance, you should be fine. I just don't see the reason to put the drone through unnecessary risk. It's clear that this obstacle avoidance does not pick up small twigs. And in the winter, there are plenty of small twigs in all of these different trees. I almost flew into one. I did actually fly into one. That was gonna be my next comment is, I broke a prop by just barely hitting a twig. So I'm gonna buy a new one. Active tracking features, you know, the spotlight, all that stuff was really, really good. I know the obstacle avoidance, it's not perfect. I would not be using any of those features where there's fine twigs, because you will find out very quickly how fine twigs or how big twigs can be to knock your drone down. I think, you know, there are some places that I would be very careful with. And I think like using it in roads and stuff just to kind of like, you know, go up and down a road, I am going to be using it for, you know, for some drone shots, for some, you know, stuff upcoming shortly. But I do think that it definitely flies smoother than any of the other drones I've flown. The obstacle avoidance, when you have it on, does pretty good. I've, you know, seen some people that have talked about how, you know, the follow me functions and stuff. And I live in a very wooded area, so it would be, you know, it does see a good bit of the trees, but I don't think it sees enough. That I would trust it. There has been plenty of times where I've almost flown into sticks because it hasn't seen it. Obviously the sticks are probably less than the thickness of my pinky, but for the most part it's done good enough where it needs to be, and I would just avoid areas when you've got all these little thin sticks, especially in the winter. Overall, as I said, would I buy it? I don't know. It's expensive. It's definitely probably the best drone you're gonna get, best obstacle avoidance. And I mean, logic is if you're gonna put all that money into a drone, might as well get something that's kind of semi-smart, that's not gonna let you crash it as easily. Well, thank you very much for watching, and I hope you enjoyed my little review of this drone. I think it's pretty solid.